It was Texas, it was Tennessee. It was what I had coming to me. You were unlike anything. Welcome in, folks. Welcome to the Texas to Tennessee podcast with our friend Soul Gravy over on the right. Tonight, we are super excited to have our friend Mike Ryan on the podcast. Welcome in, Mike.
Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for making time for us.
Oh, you bet. Coming to you live from the truck.
Appreciate it. So I think to get started, I know a bunch of our viewers are super familiar with you, but for maybe some of those that aren't, do you mind just giving us, I don't know, maybe a 90-second backstory so they can become a little bit more familiar with you?
All right. Well, I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. I went to Oak Grove Elementary, Garner Middle School, and MacArthur High School, and then I found my way. I moved my way up to University of North Texas up in Denton College, and that's kind of where I started writing and playing songs. I learned how to play guitar my senior year of high school. Kind of come from a family of musicians. There's a lot of us, especially on my dad's side of the family, it's like band directors, and my dad was in off-Broadway musical stuff, and so I just remember being a part of a lot of audiences growing up watching performance art, and from an early age was involved. And but in college I started writing songs, and country music was kind of my avenue. I worked at a bar there in Denton that had Texas country acts that came through every Thursday, and so I got to see a lot of live performances and just really firsthand get to know a lot of these people and see what the scene kind of was all about, and really piqued my interest from there. And open mics started happening. I put a little band together, sports bars, bringing my own PA. Then came a publishing deal. Then came, starting to do my own headlining shows and going out and hitting the road. And we played probably 100 shows a year. I've been doing it for the last 10 or 12 years, and loving every minute of it.
Fantastic. So one of the questions that I had was UNT, was that a choice because of their musical program?
It really wasn't. Honestly, it was just the main reason. There was a select few colleges that I was accepted to, and one was too close to home. The other, it was pretty much Texas State, Texas Tech, UT Corpus, or UNT up in it. And
Yeah.
Texas State lost because they were too close. Texas Tech lost because they were too far. UT Corpus was just like, they didn't have a football program. Not that I wanted to play in college, but I wanted to be like part of that sort of atmosphere.
Yeah. Plus, it's too windy.
Yeah, and so it was just like, man, some of my friends from high school went there, but ultimately it was just kind of like the best of what I was looking for. It seemed like the best kind of thing for me. And, it turned into a nice experience. The music school obviously is a massive part of UNT, and they're highly regarded as one of the best music schools in the world. But I took a few classes, but music theory is really not my thing. And so I found out pretty quick that they wanted to teach me more than I really wanted to learn on that front. And I wasn't into jazz. I mean, jazz wasn't my thing, and that's their primary. I mean, they do all kinds of music, but jazz is like their big thing. So I was lucky because I had a lot of musicians to pull from, other people that were there studying music that I could that I ran into constantly. So that was cool, but I didn't have a ton of interest in really learning why things made sense the way that they do. I just heard it and it sounded good to me. So
right, makes sense. And then I guess the transition to the kind of greater Fort Worth area music scene, was that just a natural transition down from Denton, or did you think about maybe going somewhere else in Texas to get your music career started?
Man, being where I was, and I'd kind of plugged myself in with a few other guys that ran around and did sports bar gigs where you would try to set up your PA, and some of it was featured on a big stage. Others was like kind of you were off in the corner, but you could play whatever you wanted. I mean, you could throw in originals if you had them, but it was mainly like a cover tune thing and play stuff that people want to hear. But because of just the guys that I met, Denton was a regular stop for a lot of them because they couldn't
Sure.
play in places, and so I met him there. But then that quickly took me out to Dallas regularly and Fort Worth, and DFW area in general just had tons of places to play, and you could go out every week and play 3 or 4 nights a week and never like step on yourself. But there were
Right.
so many different places. It's not like I was selling tickets at this time, so like I was in for
Sure.
bar tabs and most of the time. But
Yeah.
that's where it started.
Okay, cool. All right, this is the one weird question I'll ask, and then I'll try to make all the rest of my questions super normal. This one's called the pie question. So I'm going to give you a pie to divide up into 4 sections. So you have songwriting, you have recording, performing, and then the 4th piece of pie is the business. So, the business of running your own individual music business, I guess.
Sure.
Where do you naturally gravitate in terms of any of those 4 areas? And then, where do you feel like you end up spending most of your time?
So, I mean, performance would definitely be the biggest portion of it, I guess, and the business of it, just because I'm doing it all the time with the performing. I mean, we spend quite a bit of time out on the road, so we do a lot of that. But I've always been kind of project based as far as recording goes. So I don't write all the time and then record whenever I write something. I usually if it's time to put out a record, I'll start writing more. And when I've written enough to record, I'll go in.
Makes sense.
And I'd spend as little time as possible in the studio. Honestly, it's not that I don't like it, especially this next record that we just started. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But I just started recording a new record with kind of a different process than I've done before, and I really like the way that this one's going, just because of the way that we've set everything up. But the recording process in general, I definitely need to be there and want to make sure that I can put in the most I can to the other musicians that might be playing or give them the most input. But it's definitely not my favorite part of the process because it's just usually a lot of work and stress concentrated into a few days, and you need to make sure everything's right before you leave. Otherwise, it gets a little expensive to bring everybody back.
Right.
And it's just hard to make things work. Things that small changes could drag out the project for weeks or months, and so there's just a lot of stress that's concentrated into those studio days a lot of times, and so it's never really been my favorite part of the process, but obviously a necessary one. And,
Sure.
I've had better and worse experiences, but so yeah, definitely performance is the biggest one. Business slightly behind that. Songwriting slightly behind that, and then the recording would be the smallest piece of the pie.
Cool. All right. Soul Gravy.
So just this is a selfish question. I'm in Tennessee. I'm the Tennessee section of the Texas Tennessee pod. So sometimes I'm late to the party on some Texas artists, but I found your music quite a while ago, and I was thinking about this when Talbot told me you were coming on. I think I found your music because of Slow Hand.
Oh, man.
And that led to to more music, and I don't know why that song, that and a sad song.
Okay.
Those are the two.
Right.
But so how did you end up recording slow hand? That that's not a typical thing that you hear. You know what I mean? So
Oh no, it was certainly a bold move, and that was actually my first. I put it out. It wasn't my intention originally to put it out as my first single, but it was on the first project. So the first thing that I put out, um, short or long story short, I spent a lot of time and effort and money into this one record that never saw the light of day because when it was done, it was terrible, and I didn't need that to be my first experience, our first exposure,
right,
first impression. And so I kind of took some time and collected myself and found somebody to help me record this next record. And it ended up being the first thing that I put out, which was 3 original songs and then 3 cover songs, which we called the first one. And it was recorded too sick because I was on budget, and I wanted to just kind of put out 3 of my songs that obviously people have never heard before, but along with that, maybe give them a taste of something they had. But this is kind of how I do it, you know. And maybe you like it, you know. And
right,
after we finished the record, it seemed like we kind of had a focus group of people that we had talked to, and Slow Hand seemed to be the popular choice, and most everyone thought it was great. I mean, I definitely met some resistance. There were some questionable responses from radio folks that were like,
right.
"Why the hell would you do a cover to your first single?" But I just thought it was a cool song. Big fan of Conway's, and it's a song that folks seem to dig. And it was my first one that I put out, and it's still one that we play almost every night. We're out on the road. It's well received.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, what I mean, and yeah, you guys are covering a Conway song, but you're not copycatting it. It's got a different feel to it than the original for sure.
oh sure, yeah, man. We kind of stripped it down, and
Hmm.
and I took some liberties on the vocal, like with the melody and things. It was a song that I was really familiar with, but um, didn't really think about putting into the live set. And then it was suggested. We started messing around with it. We're like, oh, let's go record it as part of this record. So this many years later, it's cool that we're still
Yeah,
paying tribute to the original ladies man.
That's right.
definitely the ladies, man.
That is
Uh,
correct.
but as a barroom guy, barroom musician over here, I appreciate that you did it because you brought it into like a normal singing style compared to like sometimes it's tough to cover Conway because he's got if he's got so many talking songs and you
Oh yeah.
know but yeah, you kind of brought that one into like the normal honky tonk style, so I was like, so that's why I was like, okay, thank you for that for one. So yeah, if y'all that are listening haven't heard that version, go check that out for sure. I didn't know that it was that early on though. I didn't when as far as when I found that, I didn't know it was so early on in your career.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what year you found it. I
Yeah,
forget
yeah,
when we put it out. I think it was 2010 or 11 when we put
yeah.
that
It's
one
been a
out.
while.
But yeah, that was the genesis. That was the very beginning of Old Mike.
That's yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that part of it. So that's cool. Appreciate that. Um, when is that a? I like to ask this question anyway. So this kind of ties back into that. I know you're still in a position where you're doing opening spots for folks along the way
Oh yeah.
too. Um, and when it's a room where some folks know you and some folks don't, um, is a song like that kind of help bring the crowd back in and
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're definitely not too proud to throw in a good cover song. I mean, I try and play most of our originals,
right.
or most of our set, the originals. But yeah, the value of a good cover song never hurts, as far as I'm concerned. And we won't play half of our set as covers anymore. Back in the
Right.
barroom days, you know, when I was bringing my own PA and everything, working for tips, I'd play whatever you asked me to.
Right.
Right.
As long as I knew it. But it's definitely something that I'm not too proud of, and we love it. I mean, if you're feeling a lull, you know, a sing along or something that everyone knows, it's fail safe. It's gonna bring them back. So.
Well, thanks to Talbot. Thanks for Mike in the chat to bringing the inappropriate word and stripping down a Conway songs wildly inappropriate. That's what he said. So
Thanks, Doc.
yeah, exactly.
This feels like a good time to give a shout out to
exactly.
our viewers on TikTok and on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. Hit the subscribe button. That'll be the last ad we do tonight.
Yeah. So another thing, as far as doing that opening spot, if, like I said, if you're in a position where you know half the crowd might not be familiar with what you got going on, but from your point of view, when you see a crowd, when the crowd is starting to turn and you can see the heads bobbing, that they're starting to dig what you do, what's that feeling coming from your point of view?
Oh man, if you know, it doesn't happen like that every night. Certainly, I wish I could tell you that I've won over every crowd I've played, but you know,
Yeah.
from time to time. But it's been cool to see, especially with the last couple of years. We've gone out and played a couple, probably, I don't know, 6 or 8 shows with Brantley Gilbert, and always been a fan of his. He's one of the nicest people that I've ever come in contact with. Him and his crew take great care of us. We go out with him. The kind of music that we play and the kind that he plays is, you know, some people may listen to both of that on their mixtapes, but it's not like it's a standard. Like if you're a Brantley fan, you're a Mike fan, because it maybe
Right.
James you want. So
Right.
And we were playing out in like Pennsylvania and
Okay.
our East Coast, doing stuff, markets that we're certainly not regular then. So we've had a nice little litmus test with him several times, and it's really cool. It's been in like county fair environments where there's 5, 7, 8,000 people, and so big crowds. And of course, it's still daylight typically when we're going on, but we've had that opportunity in front of him and others too. But it's just really cool in front of him, just because like he's been doing this shit forever, and it's just really cool to be brought on with him and to take advantage of a crowd like that. And we've been able to turn the tides on a few of those crowds, and really like, not that we came out bad, but they were like, "Who the hell are you?" The first couple of songs, and by the end of the set, they're just, you know, they're digging it.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been to a Brantley show, but they're great. Awesome production and just really cool. So to impress his fans is a cool thing, because they know what they're looking for.
Saw him years ago with Eric Church. So that's a hell of a pairing with those two.
Oh yeah.
So you were talking about going up the East Coast and everything, and something that we talked about with here goes Adam Hood being brought up on the pod again. He talked about being on a tour with goodness, I'm going blank. Oh man. Either way, man, I'm going completely blank.
Can't remember either.
Drake White.
Drake,
Oh yeah.
If so, you know, Adam is normally a southern touring artist, Texas. You know, so when he went with Drake, he took him up the East Coast with a lot of folks that wasn't familiar with his music or never got a chance to see him. I guess he was bringing up the fact of how kind of intimidating that it can be going into new markets, but also you need to do it to grow your fan base. Is that, do you feel that kind of way in that situation as well?
Oh sure. I mean, on both fronts. I mean, it's definitely something you got to do. But you know, I've been doing that for a long time, and so it's not super uncomfortable for me, because from my earliest shows, like the first handful of shows that I played. I mean, the first year or so, or I don't know, 20, 30, 40 shows that I played, I had really bad stage fright. I would get nervous. Like the days leading up to the show, I was pumped, and I would go tell everyone to come out and do my promotion and hang posters. I mean, this was before.
Yeah.
This was like right when Facebook was starting to come out, so it was like you
MySpace.
could kind of do that, but I was still like group texting all my friends, like, "Hey, I got a show," like stapling posters to telephone poles and shit. So it's like that was back in the day, and it was cool to do. But whenever I would show up the day of the show, getting there, I would all of a sudden get this giant pit in my stomach. Like, what have I gotten myself into? I hate the way that I feel right now. This sucks because I'm naturally kind of introverted a lot of the time. I'm forced as an entertainer to be out of the box or more out than I normally would be. But especially back then. But I knew that I was good enough, and I liked it enough to give it a shot. But as soon as I played the first song, all those nerves just went away. And even if there was 10 people in the room, there would be one person at least that was digging what I was doing. And if nobody else cared, I was playing for them. It's like, I'll just lock into you and I'll play this show for you. And so that's the kind of the mindset that I've taken moving into all these new markets. When we play, sometimes we go out there and there's not much more than bar staff that's watching us play. And I've been doing this a while, so it's like, shit, it's but it's just part of it. You go and play some place that's 1,000 miles away from home, and you've never really played out there in that market before. You kind of roll the dice sometimes, and sometimes you're surprised by a good show, sometimes you're surprised by a bad one. But hey, good ones come, bad ones come. It's just part of it.
Yeah.
But you got to do it, and finding a bigger band that's willing to take you out and bring their audience to you for 30, 45 minutes, an hour before their set. It's really cool, man, because that goes a long way. Word of mouth. People want to believe things that they're told by their friends, and so seeing somebody right there in front of them, or somebody that they respect, saying, "Hey, listen to this guy," it means more than just hearing a song on the radio, singing it out. So
I imagine that is cool to hear, especially when the other artists are, when they're helping you along the way as far as with their family, with their friends, and their fan base. You know what I mean? I guess give you more legs to stand on right out of the gate when they're giving their approval as well.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, Tabo.
Mike, can you tell us a little bit about what the experience was like to play at Globe Life? So for those that aren't familiar, Globe Life is where the Rangers play. Opened up a new stadium 4 years ago, I think. And I know you got to open for Morgan Wallen. What was that like?
Man, that was incredible. I mean, just like to get the call and the offer, from one of the biggest acts in the world right now, and
Right.
we've seen anyway. But especially with him, I mean, he's kind of a crossover artist, so just there's a lot of eyes, a lot of publicity around him. But just to get the offer from that, I mean, it's flattering for sure. But also really cool because I've played about everywhere there is to play around the stadium.
Right.
And got to sing the national anthem there for a Rangers game one time too. So it was like I've had little bits and pieces of what it feels like to perform in and around the stadium. But to get that call was great, and to the crowd that we played for, they were still so Jake Worthington played right before us. We went on, and then it was supposed to be Hardy, but they had that bus crash right before.
Yes.
So last minute, Ernest came in to get the direct, and Morgan, of course. And big fan of Ernest. He killed. Morgan was, I mean, holy shit, dude. It's fantastic.
Big show.
It was wild, man. It was wild. I forget what time of day it was. It was still light outside, and there were people still coming in. But I mean, we had 30,000+ people that were in the room, and ended up being 50,000+ that were there that night. And I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't feel like most of them in there knew exactly who I was, but I feel like most of them had a damn good time listening. They were feeling themselves. At least to me, it felt like we had that place rocking pretty good, and it was great, man. I had a ton of people, family and friends, come in for it, of course, too. So it was a special night, sure.
Yeah, I know there were a lot of Texas country music fans that were super proud that you were getting to play that show, and what a cool opportunity. How was it? Maybe you can share this or not, but did you get to see like a boost in your socials and in your Spotify and those types of things?
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
assume yes, but
within a few weeks of that time, I mean, our following grew by several thousand, which was like the big. I mean, we've had some decent pops and big jumps, but that was by far like as far as from the following, like that was a big jump there. Also, our Spotify, our streaming numbers went up for a while, and that was it was great to see that. But I mean, you got to take advantage of those opportunities, of course, when they come around. And I feel like
for sure.
Nice feather in the cap to play Globe Life.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you you talked a little bit about, having a touch of this, being apprehensive or whatever, stage fright, whatever you want to call it. What was that like? I mean, I figure if you're going to do it, that would be a place where it'd be normal to have stage fright in that kind of setting.
Oh man, no stage fright at all. Honestly, like that I'm really happy that went away pretty early on. I mean, within the first year of me playing, I feel like all that kind of went away. But every once in a while, it's weird. You can't really count on it, but it's not always the biggest crowd. Sometimes it's the little bitty ones. You might be playing for 20 or 30 people, and all of a sudden you're just in the wrong mindset, and now you're overthinking everything.
Your
and
brain's in the way.
Or whatever. Yeah. It's like, I've definitely been on stage a few times and spaced completely on the lyrics, and it was like, okay, where do we go from here? Do we let them know that we've completely blown it, or do we just like jam for a second until the lyrics come back and get to talk back and ask the band, like, what the hell am I supposed to sing?
That's where you tell Jerry we need a quick solo, right?
Hell yeah. Oh no, Jerry's well aware. So he's been with me a long time. He's seen me forget the words a lot. So he's usually right there, and sometimes it's happened. Like, I've made a habit of doing it on the same song, and this might be a song I've done 1,000 times. I wrote the damn thing, like I know the words, but for whatever reason, something happens and I space, and he's usually there after a pass or so, after he realizes that I've done forgot, that he'll feed me the line, or he'll just rip right into a solo or do something.
Yeah, nice. I guess one of my
tracks.
Yeah, for sure. I guess one of my questions would be, in a big, huge production like that, what were the things that I guess you kind of noticed? Because obviously you were, around everything that was going on. Wallen Comes to Town. It's a massive, massive production. But was there anything that you noticed or kind of, I don't know, takeaways from that experience?
Well, one thing that I'd never thought of before, because like we play a ton of shows, but I don't play many shows on stages that are that big. And so I got in trouble one time because I have a wireless mic, and there's this giant catwalk. It's probably 50 yards out there.
Right.
And I'm just like, let's see what happens when you go this far away. And so I'm out there just ripping, like singing on this at the end of this one song. And I get to the very end of it, and I'm holding this long note, like with my toes hanging over the edge of the very end of this catwalk. And all of a sudden, I realize I'm supposed to play the lead right on the intro to the next song. I'm 50 yards away from my pedal board, and I can't get there in time.
Right.
Luckily, my guitar player was watching, and he knew what was up, and so he just went right with it, and he took it, and everything was fine. But that was something that right in that moment, I was like, holy shit, I've never been here before. I'm way too far away from my mic. Thanks for covering my ass. So that was a cool part. And you know, something that unless you got a mentor or somebody telling you that, you just don't know,
right?
In the middle, but yeah,
totally.
So, and that was cool. But and it's wild to see, because like we bring everything that we've got in one bus and trailer, and he had like 12 or 14 tractor trailers and at least that many buses, and they're bringing a lot of shit when they come to town.
Yeah, circus is coming to town for sure when that thing's going on. I think we're at halftime, so we're gonna let you choose whichever song you'd like us to play. We're gonna grab one and let everybody listen.
I was gonna ask that. You know, of all your songs that you have released, is there one that's kind of that maybe doesn't get quite as much love as you think they should? That I was gonna ask that question anyways. Is there?
Man, you know, I've always been a fan of Red Eye Flight. It was never a single for us because it kind of talks about some backwoods type stuff that maybe everybody doesn't need to be or doesn't know about. Not always radio friendly for the kids, but honestly, like, I've had more parents come up to me and tell me that their kid's favorite song is Red Eye Flight, and they got no idea what it's really about. You know, at 6 years old, or 8 years old, whatever. But
yeah,
I guess they like the melody. But yeah, so either that or Forgiveness and Rain is another one, and they're kind of about the same thing, just different perspective. But
we'll go with Red Eye then, and that way. That was the first thing that came to mind, so we'll roll with that one.
Nice. And Mike, if you don't mind going silent on this, it'll make for a better.
I can do it.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Sure,
Thanks.
Just click on the microphone.
Little.
Yes,
yep,
sir.
You got it. Thanks.
All right, here we go.
Been one of those days. It's gonna turn into one of those nights where there's only one way to make it all right. When I'm feeling this kind of low, I can throw some vinyl on the stereo and roll up my worries and watch them all go up in smoke. I'm taking that red eye flight. I'm gonna be burning bright like a 747 through the northern lights. 35,000 feet ain't gonna have nothing on me. I'm gonna be high all night, taking that red eye flight. There's a bar right down the street that serves every kind of alcohol. But sitting there drinking isn't gonna work at all. So I'm taking a trip right now. I don't even have to leave the house. I got my window seat right here on the couch. I'm taking that red like a 747 through the northern lights. 35,000 feet ain't gonna have nothing on me. I'm gonna be high all night, taking that red-eye flight. I'm gonna take Maury's advice and catch that red-eye flight.
There we go.
Yeah, man.
Good
All
stuff.
right. So I thought of a question while that was playing. I'm a big vinyl record guy, and I know you've had some vinyl out there at times. What's it like? What's it like for you to something you've recorded, get that back? You know, to peel that plastic off, and is that kind of a romantic feeling for you?
Dude, yeah, hell yeah. I mean, that was my first like recognizable medium for music was the tape, the cassette tape. That's what I really got used to as a kid. But mom and dad had a bunch of records around, and we would frequently listen to those records. But most of them had, a good skip or two, or they were wobbly, or they just didn't quite sound great,
Right.
Kept them too close to the water heater furnace or something. I don't know.
Right.
No, but just like, records essentially is the earliest form of recording, for most people's standards, still the best listened to. And so, it was really cool, yeah. That, and the last record that we did, the Longcut record, was actually the first one that I'd ever done on vinyl.
Okay.
And that was really just because I moved into this neighborhood, and the guy down the street owns a printing press, like a place where they do the vinyl record. And so just met him, was like, hell yeah, let's do it. I thought of it before, but it was just like, all right, well, this is a sign. I gotta. It's awesome. Just having that, and we've sold a bunch of them too, which is great. But just the classic way of listening to music without the record player, and listen to it old-fashioned way is pretty cool.
How many copies of your own record do you have at your house like that? Just you got a few. Just for
I got a few. We've kept. I'll never sell out of all of them. I'll always have.
I got you.
Some of the first edition, but if need be, we can always go back and print
go to
more.
the neighbor down the street, huh?
Right. That's a cool deal.
Yeah.
All right. You got one, Tavo?
I do. I have several,
Okay.
actually. So I don't think we talked, or you might have alluded to this a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about your time with Seagale and how that, I guess impacted you as a songwriter?
Oh, you bet. So 2013 was when I first got signed with them, and Chris Dubois, one of the owners of it, had gotten a copy of one of my CDs and just liked what he heard and invited me up to come have a meeting with him. And I had no idea. I really didn't think at all it was going to turn into much. I just thought it was, I knew who he was, but I just was skeptical that it was going to turn into much because I'd been led down some paths before, nothing worked out. And so didn't think it was going to pan out, but like when we started talking, like there was just a genuineness about the way that he appreciated my raw talent and really thought that I would add a lot to their company. And by the end of that first meeting, like offering me a deal, a publishing deal, it was a complete shock. And so obviously great news. But it really allowed me to just learn how to write songs from some of the best in the business. I mean, he's a approaching legendary songwriter, I would imagine.
Yeah, he's a
Certainly,
monster.
one of my favorites, if he's not already achieved that status. But he's just he's a beast, and there was all kinds of others, and turned into a really good relationship writing wise and just friend wise with him, but also with another guy named Brent Anderson, who's currently producing my record now. I've written probably half of my songs with Brent. Um, and so it turned into, I met a lot of really cool people, but just got comfortable with the idea of co-writing, because before that I'd only written pretty much by myself or with one other buddy that I met in high school. So the co-writing thing was kind of foreign to me, and I was, it's strange getting in a room and like airing these true thoughts and emotions and bouncing ideas off of us. Maybe they suck,
Right.
So
Was it was it humbling? Because I mean, I know sometimes you can get in one of those rooms in Nashville and be like, oh, wow, it's you're sitting across from this guy that wrote 3 George Strait songs and this guy that wrote whatever, and like I could see how you could get in your own head and go, well, I think I'm
yeah.
a pretty good songwriter, but now I'm sitting in a room with all these other folks and I need to step up my game a little bit.
Well, yeah, there's definitely those sort of thoughts will creep in if you let them. And I've certainly had them at times, but I mean, and there's obviously rights that just don't work out. You're not gonna write a hit song with every new person you sit in a room with. And so for me, it was rare to get anything really great the first time that I got in a room. I mean, a lot of times it took 3 or 4 writes to really kind of get to know the person you're writing with
Sure.
and figure out how to make it work. But some you can tell right off the bat are going to be great, or they're just not going to work. So, it just familiarized me with that whole process, and so that was highly valuable. I mean, learning how to write songs with other folks and going into sessions sometimes with nothing at all, like being completely tapped out idea-wise, but then like leaning on your buddies and then end up writing great songs because y'all get along, kind of, pick up where the other left off, and
Right.
the ideas flow freely. It's just
You talked a little bit about this new album that you have coming out. You got a new producer. Anything that maybe that you can share about this new project, and not to pin you down on a timeline, but general vicinity of when we might get to hear some new stuff?
so I just went up and spent the 2 weeks ago, spent about a week out there, and the way that we're doing this one is kind of cool. It's different than I've done in the past. Brent and I are gonna be recording most of the instruments ourselves. He's like a aficionado with just about everything with strings, and so he can
Nice.
play parts like that. They're just really cool, great parts, great player. And he's got a little home studio that he's put together, and has just gotten really good with that process. And I'm singing things down, playing guitars as well, a little keys. But there's just most of the stuff that we're able to do right there in the studio with him. And we're gonna bring in my player. We're gonna get somebody to play live drums for it. So it's that's kind of all I can say at this point as far as
Yeah.
like at the process. We've got 4 recorded. We've got 10 on the list that we're gonna do. But
Okay.
when I was in the studio last time, we wrote 2 more that are most likely going to be on this record. So we're still kind of picking some songs for it. But first quarter of next year, we'll start to release whatever we put out first. Single.
Right.
I feel like we'll single something first. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure. Well, we're super excited for the new stuff. We love all the other stuff, so new stuff will be fun.
With all of your writing and publishing deals and everything, did that ever put you in Nashville for any amounts of time, or are you pretty much been in Texas, that been able to do that remotely?
So I've always lived in Texas, but from 2013 to probably 2016, 2017, I was spending a week out of every month in Nashville. So
Okay.
I would go out there and write, but I would come back and because I was on the road pretty much that whole time as well, playing a lot in Texas, but a lot other places too. I mean, we travel coast to coast, really. At that time, we were probably 80% in Texas, because we were just, starting to build our headlining thing. But it was that was kind of where it started. I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
No, I was just talking. But you did spend, as far as writing wise, you spent a lot of time in Nashville for the writing purposes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would spend 12 weeks a year out there, just one week out of every month, and did that for a long time. And so spent quite a bit of time out there. But I had my first child in 17, so that kind of cut into my Nashville trip.
Understood. I think I just wanted to point out the in the day where you can do some. I mean, we're talking to you right now in your truck over the phone. You know what I mean? But that, I guess, the work that puts in the writing songs sometimes can get overlooked, as far as the travel and the time away from family. And as far as publishing deals, sometimes what that means is time-wise. That, like you said, spending a week at a time away, that's a whole nother section of the job, and responsibility and sacrifice, and a lot of people probably don't ever think about or see.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's certainly plenty of sacrifice on mine and my family's part. I mean,
Right.
they're missing out on time with me, just like I'm missing them. And so, but I mean, that's all that we've really ever known. I was doing it long before my kids came around, and so they kids kind of get conditioned to their environment, so they understand. But it doesn't suck any less when I'm leaving again on Thursday and my kid's crying, saying I just got home. Like, it sucks. It's hard.
Yeah.
But that's what Daddy does, and that's how you keep the lights on. And the idea is to play less and less shows. That's,
Right.
We'll see, but we got
Yeah.
we got salaries to pay and all kinds of stuff. So
Well,
gotta keep playing.
one of the questions we had in the chat, Lacey was asking about, as far as the kiddos, if they had any interest in picking up instruments or music at this point.
Oh yeah. So we got a piano at the house, and I play frequently, and the kids kind of plunk around with me as well. But they've both got their own guitars, and it's hard to say how this will pan out in the future. But when my oldest was probably 5 or 6, I got a chance to go play the Grand Ole Opry. We took the family out there on the bus, and so we're all riding. It took almost a full day to get out there with the stops we made and stuff. So we were driving out there, and of course my son was old enough to kind of appreciate the significance. I don't know if he fully grasped the Grand Ole Opry, but he knew we were going someplace because it's Dad's special gig, whatever. And he was like, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be just like you, like Grand Ole Opry, play country music." And it's like, "Oh man," it's like that's it was like, hit me right here.
Yeah, I
Hey.
bet.
So that was really cool to see, and they both can certainly carry a tune. They hum and sing all day long. So it's definitely in them, whether they decide to pursue it like professionally. We'll have to see, but they're musical for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that. I mean, just kids at a school play it gets parents all messed up. So, yeah,
Yeah, for
it
sure.
doesn't take much for us for parents. But what about the Grand Ole Opry? We've had several folks on here that have had the opportunity to play that stage. Any kind of quick takeaways from your experience,
Man,
especially the first one?
it was pretty damn cool. Honestly, like they go out of their way to really make you feel special, especially the first time artists that they have a sign like in front of the parking spot, like reserved for me on the first with the date, performance, and they've got a special green room for you, and they're just anything that you need. You feel like you're accommodated, and the Opry band rehearsing with them, like they don't need it. They can look at a piece of music or like charts and play it one time for the first time as good as it's ever been played. They're just like the best session guys in the business. So it's for the artists. They want to just make you feel welcome, and the band comes back and they talk to you about how you want to perform the songs and everything, and you run through those songs or whatever, 2 or 3. So man, just a really cool deal. I mean, I didn't necessarily grow up listening to the Opry on the radio, but I was well aware of it, and it's especially once I got into performing in country music, like it was immediately on the radar and something that I thought was really cool, and took a minute to get in there for the first time, but once I did, I mean, they were like, "Dude, whenever you want to come back, let us know."
Any certain folks that you were around that night as far as other artists? Do you remember?
And so the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band was there. I didn't get to really visit with them. Lee Bryce was also there. I think I briefly saw him. I've met him once or twice before. I've never really gotten to spend a lot of time with him, but always been a super cool dude. But yeah, that was dope to be on with him. There was a few others. I mean, the really like the main thing that I thought was just so cool. I had my immediate family, of course, but almost all of my extended family, and then probably 20 other people from all ages, like people that I'd known for 20, 30 years that I hadn't seen in forever, that would come out. And they didn't say they were coming, they just showed up. And so it's like,
Yeah, it's
man,
cool.
Like, it really brought together a lot of people from my family and our friends, and that was awesome. So I spent a lot of time talking with those folks.
I think sometimes the you know not to get in a pro or negative Nashville talk, but just the overall view sometimes can get a little lost to how important the Grand Ole Opry still is to artists. A lot of times, sometimes Nashville is not everyone's cup of tea. At least what they see from a broad point of view, but there's still a lot that I guess like a huge romantic side to that to the Opry and to and
Yeah.
the folks that do it. And a lot of people can be like, they can have harsh words about Nashville, but then when the Opry calls, that's a whole
Oh
nother
yeah,
different ball game.
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
yeah. No, and
Uh,
I'm kind of with you too. I don't get involved in
Yeah. Yeah.
the tea, if you will, much, but I've probably I can't recall ever hearing a bad thing that anybody's had to say about the Opry. I've certainly never felt bad about them by any means. And when they asked me, because that's another thing, it's not like you can just show up and play that. We got
Right.
to invite you. So it's
We
like to get that
tried that.
invite. It's like,
Yeah.
man,
Didn't work. Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
Mike, I did want to ask you, so going from a super sentimental moment to a less sentimental moment, um,
All right.
I think there's a story floating around about you out on tour and somebody pulling a knife on you.
oh man. So I mean, I like to say I got stabbed in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Okay.
But once you hear the full story, it's not quite as gruesome. But so I was playing a show out there at this place called the Tumbleweed, and there's a point in the set where I play a song called "When I Drink Beer," and my stage manager brought me the beer, and before I popped it, they started chanting shot that they wanted me to shotgun. It's like, cool, I can shotgun beer, and I thought I usually have a knife on me, um, and this particular show I didn't. So I asked if anyone had a knife, and on the mic, like a dumbass. I mean, I thought it would be like somebody in the front row would be like, hell yeah, because who doesn't have a knife,
Right.
in Stillwater? And so I was like, thinking somebody would hand me a knife. No, like from the abyss, from the back of the room, here comes a bullet, just like a laser beam, and slaps me in the leg, right in the shin. And I barely have a chance to see it before and it hits me, and then skips across the stage, and I'm just thinking, like, that hurt. But I go back and I find the knife, and I see it's like a folding knife, but locked open. Like, who throws an open knife? Like,
Right, that's the worst.
What,
It's not
whatever.
what I
But
asked for.
I poked the thing in my beer, and I made the hole and shotgunned it, played the show, and we're all good. And then I get back to my bus, and I'm pulling my boot off, and there's just big blood spot on my sock, like it just went straight through the boot and the jeans and the boot and into my leg. I mean, it was like, it went in just, no
That's
stitches
dangerous.
required, no nothing, but
Yeah. Well,
he broke the skin with a knife.
that
Everybody,
qualifies for the favorite fan story tonight.
aggravated
So,
assault, brother.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
and then you're
sure.
not even supposed to give it back to him open. You're supposed to give it. I mean, closed. You're not supposed to close it when you give it back to him. That's all bad luck and everything too. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
just
horrible
terrible all the
luck.
way around.
Yeah.
I know. They wanted to get pissed when I threw it back at them.
Uh,
Nice. I think we're ready for
yeah.
little rapid fire, and then Soul's got one very important question to ask you before we let you go. So these are all rapid fire questions. Are pretty easy, except for the first one can be difficult. So, Desert Island album. Take one with you.
Oh man. I'm gonna just say Pink Floyd. Um, I forget the album name, but it's the one with. I just listened to the playlist, so I don't know the album. I just say like Pink
The
Floyd.
Wall.
The greatest
Yeah.
hits.
Or greatest
Probably
hits.
that. The hits, yeah. Pink
Yeah.
Floyd hits.
Fair enough. Dinner with one historical figure, dead or alive.
John Wayne.
Very
Okay.
cool. Duke.
Good one.
This one I feel like you'll be able to give us an idea, but what's your ideal green room look like?
Oh man. Well, so ideally, if we're there all day, there's a nice gas range at my disposal, and like a fridge that's got plenty of like fresh produce and meat, fish, maybe no fish, but eggs. It's just some stuff, whatever I feel like I might want to throw together for the day. I love to cook. If I wasn't,
Nice. That's cool.
I wasn't a country musician, I'd probably be a chef somewhere. But I cook a lot anyway, so it would ideally have a nice range there where I could cook what I needed for me and the rest of the guys throughout the day. Adjacent to a good gym, that would be cool, just so I don't have to go anywhere.
Right.
Nice shore power for the bus. Man, I mean, leather couches, fruit.
Yeah, so it sounds like a good time.
I mean, I don't. Of course, what we like to drink. I'm a tequila guy myself, so I drink most everything, but certain times of year, now that we're getting a little colder, whiskey or scotch, seems more appropriate sometimes. But being from South Texas, I feel like tequila is just in my blood somehow.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's
All right, so I know you've played some huge venues, but what would be a bucket list venue that you haven't played yet?
So I'll give you two, kind of, because they're mostly like Madison Square Garden is at the top of the list, but that one, I don't want to call it a pipe dream. It's one that's out there. It could happen.
Yeah,
It seems
sure.
less likely. But also Red Rocks would be the other one. That's just such a killer venue. I've not been there, but we are playing that. We're playing with Riley Green and Ella Langley August of next year.
Oh, nice.
So we've got one on the books. We'll be in the room. The next goal, of course, is to headline Red Rocks. But
Sure.
that's those two. But yeah, Madison Square Garden, or maybe Majestic Theater in San Antonio, honestly, because that's a more realistic goal. I've seen so many shows there. That's where I grew up, and
Right.
I'm gonna change it last minute. Audible Majestic.
Yeah.
San Antonio.
Omaha.
That's cool. We'll leave that for down the road. That's fine.
Omaha.
Yeah.
All right.
First concert and then first concert that you paid for.
Oh man, I saw Dwight Yoakam at the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo
Nice.
in the '90s. I saw Garth Brooks probably not long after that. I didn't pay for that one. I don't think I paid for a show until I went to Cross Canadian Ragweed in college at Billy College.
Solid.
Yeah.
Age,
It's an impressive list.
Yeah, definitely.
thanks.
All right, so we had one other question in the chat. We'll make it a extended rapid fire one. Your Mount Rushmore of country music. Thanks, Connor, for the question. Then we'll go with the last one.
Oh man, So I'm gonna have to pull from different
That's cool.
eras. I would say Willie Nelson, George Strait, Chris Stapleton.
Okay.
Oh man,
It doesn't.
tough.
It's not permanent. It's not like a real rock. You can change them out at times. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
digital. It's a meme. It's a meme, but
Right.
Yeah.
memes.
Don't want to stress you out too much about it.
Keith Whitley.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Nice. Shout out to Keith Whitley.
Okay. You got.
Yeah. Well, I just tribute bands, yay or nay. That's my last question.
Okay. Uh-oh.
I mean, in general, like, should they exist or?
What any feelings you have on tribute bands?
Uh-oh.
I mean, I can't. I've seen some that are like so good that it's like this is worth going to see. You know, I mean,
Right.
whether I fully like. I mean, some of these there's like there's good money in tribute bands. If you
Oh yeah, for sure.
goddamn, like, you might
Yeah.
make more than the real guy.
Yeah, it's nuts, right?
But no, it's I like to see it. And it seems like a popular thing around the DFW area.
Yeah, it is.
And I've got plenty of friends that are involved in those kind of bands, and so I mean, I'm happy that they exist. It's not a thing that I make a habit of going to see, but I've
Right.
been to some shows and wasn't disappointed.
Okay.
Yeah, very diplomatic. Appreciate
That
it.
answers your question. I don't know.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. You're
I don't
good.
want to shit on anybody.
No. Nobody does.
I haven't been driven one way or another by them, you know, to really like form a solid opinion or a little hate in my heart.
Gotcha. All right. One thing that it took away from this interview, Mike, that doesn't always happen. You have I guess skated that line with the Texas scene and a lot of the folk out of the Nashville scene, as far as a lot of the artists you talked when you said at first you mentioned Brantley Gilbert, touring with him, and then you mentioned going to the Red Rock show and all that. That's a lot of guys. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. So that's cool of you to I guess to be open to that, and then and congratulations on those things happening for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're you know, being able to be in both scenes doesn't always happen. So congratulations on that for sure.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. No,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've, you know, being from Texas, like it seemed like a natural thing to, and a lot of people just called me Texas country. I feel like because that's where I lived, you know, playing shows in that area. But I wasn't necessarily like singing songs about Texas or overwhelmingly Texas proud. But I mean, I certainly am. But started writing some songs that really opened a lot of doors for me out in Nashville. And so, like from the beginning, I've always been kind of both. I've had a lot of made a lot of friends out in Nashville, and learned how to really write songs and stuff with those people. And so but you know, I've not fully like committed to moving out there. I don't feel like I necessarily needed to,
Right.
and you know, things change all the time, and I travel out there frequently still. But no, it's just it's a cool thing. I feel like I've been fortunate to be received well on both ends, and it doesn't seem
For
like
sure.
anybody's really looked down their nose at me for being either one or the other. So I like both.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, you mentioned Riley Green, Morgan Wallen, Brantley Gilbert. You know what I mean? These
Yeah.
folks that you've done shows with. That, like I said, that doesn't always happen to be able to go down both roads. So, yeah, yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. The most important question. This question started on episode number 1 as a joke, and now it is a requirement that I ask this. So, Mike Ryan, what is your favorite Little Debbie snack?
Oh man,
Uh-oh.
I you know, uh, especially since I gotta be careful here because of course you're not supposed to eat food.
Of
You
course.
get kids around whatever. It's deer season. You gotta sneak some snacks in your packet. The oatmeal cream pies, dude.
Oatmeal cream
It's,
pie.
they've
Okay.
My guy.
always been top of the list for me. Uh, I can't even really confidently say. I feel like most of them were little babies, but like the cosmic brownies, like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
those man. And,
They all qualify.
yeah, yeah.
Star Crunch. I don't know
Okay.
those little babies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm just trying to think what they used to have in the lunch line at school.
All right.
That was like the assortment. But yeah, for me, the milk.
Oatmeal cream pies. Got
Got
it.
a
Wrote
winner.
it down. All right, got it. All right.
Team oatmeal cream pie wins again.
That's right. All right, man. Mike, it was good to meet you. I appreciate the time. As always, make sure you go follow Mike Ryan Band on all the socials. Anywhere you stream your music, hit that follow button. When he releases new music and it says, "Hey, will you go pre-save my new single?"
Yeah, do that.
All of that stuff is for a reason to help get the ball rolling, the motivation for the music before it's ever released. It doesn't cost anything. Just go help your
Just
favorite
do it.
artist out
Yep.
when they ask.